She only wanted a place to sleep, a quiet room in the hotel she had built from the ground up. But in less than 9 minutes, that lobby would turn into a battleground of dignity, power, and truth. The woman they mocked, dismissed, and humiliated wasn't just another guest. She was their boss. Their disbelief would echo across the internet before midnight, shattering the illusion of progress one viral moment at a time. Because what began as routine prejudice would end as public reckoning. She wasn't looking for revenge. She was demanding respect. But the question is, what happens when the person you underestimate owns everything around you? She thought she'd seen racism before, but nothing could have prepared her for this night. For Maya Richardson, nights at the Sterling Grand were supposed to be routine, quiet, efficient, predictable. She'd built her empire on precision, owning luxury hotels across 3 continents. Yet beneath the calm confidence, she carried memories of being told she didn't belong in rooms she now owned. That sting never faded. It only sharpened her resolve. Tonight was supposed to be just another business check-in before an early flight to Tokyo. No cameras, no headlines, no drama. She wore jeans instead of designer suits, testing her own staff's professionalism while keeping her identity hidden. A silent audit, she called it. A pulse check on how her team treated the people who didn't look rich. The lobby lights glowed gold against the marble floors as she approached the front desk. Her card was ready, her reservation confirmed, but the air carried a subtle chill, the kind that whispers a warning before the storm hits. She didn't know it yet, but the next 9 minutes would expose more than poor service. They'd reveal an ugly truth still thriving beneath polished chandeliers and corporate smiles. She thought she was checking in for the night, but she was about to check the conscience of an entire company. The moment Maya stepped up to the marble counter, the temperature in the lobby seemed to drop. The night manager, Derek Walsh, didn't even glance at her reservation before smirking, a practiced, polished condescension sharpened over years of unchecked power. His eyes scanned her jeans, her sneakers, her plain white shirt, and then the black card in her hand. The sound of it hitting the counter was sharp, deliberate, and humiliating. A front desk clerk, Sarah, snickered quietly, pretending to fix something on her monitor. Patricia, the assistant manager, joined moments later, her expression a mix of suspicion and superiority. They whispered to each other, exchanged knowing looks, and spoke in tones meant to be heard. Maya's name, the same name printed across every legal document of ownership, was treated like a joke. Her confirmation number dismissed as probably fake. The sting wasn't in their words, but in the certainty behind them, the absolute confidence that they were right about her, that a black woman dressed simply couldn't possibly afford a room in this place, much less belong here. Guests nearby began to notice. Some whispering, some filming, their phones raised like silent witnesses. Each second stretched into humiliation, each sneer cutting deeper. When Derek called for security, it wasn't out of caution, it was theater. The guard, Marcus Thompson, approached, his expression unreadable. For a moment, Maya thought he might recognize her. But even he hesitated, caught between training and bias. He asked her to step aside, his tone polite but firm. She did, standing in the glow of the chandeliers that reflected her restraint like armor. She could have shouted her title, flashed her ID, ended it all, but she didn't. Not yet. This was bigger than her. This was about the thousands of quiet moments where people like her were told, no, for reasons no one would ever write down. As she watched Patricia type furiously, probably canceling her reservation, Maya felt something shift. The line between professionalism and prejudice wasn't blurry. It was blazing. Around them, the air thickened with tension and murmurs, the weight of unspoken truths pressing in. A young woman in the corner began streaming the scene live, her voice trembling as she narrated the discrimination unfolding in real time. Derek basked in the attention, his arrogance feeding on the discomfort of others. Maya's phone buzzed with reminders, her Tokyo call approaching fast. But the real business was happening here, in this lobby that had become a stage for systemic bias. Every second was proof, every insult a receipt. And though they didn't know it yet, every word they spoke was sealing their own fate. Because this wasn't just about a room, it was about power, perception, and a reckoning years in the making. She stood perfectly still, calm as a loaded storm. They thought they were exposing a fraud, but in truth, they were revealing themselves. The clock above the desk ticked louder. The lobby hushed, and the next words out of Derek's mouth would decide everything. He just didn't know who he was talking to yet, but he was about to find out in the most public way possible. The lobby had gone silent. Only the faint hum of the air conditioner and the distant tick of the wall clock filled the air. Derek's voice, once booming with false authority, began to tremble as Maya calmly reached into her worn leather bag. Every eye followed her hand, expected her to pull out some desperate proof of legitimacy, a credit card, an ID, maybe even a tearful plea. Instead, she placed a single document on the marble counter, its gold-embossed letterhead gleaming under the chandelier light. Sterling Grand Hotel Group, Executive Audit. The words hung in the air like a verdict. Patricia leaned in first, reading faster with each line, her face draining of color. Then Derek saw it. Maya Richardson, Chief Executive Officer. For a heartbeat, no one breathed. The realization hit like a thunderclap. The woman they'd mocked, insulted, and publicly humiliated owned everything. The floors beneath their feet, the paychecks in their pockets, the logo on their name tags. The security chief stepped back instinctively. The clerk's fake smile collapsed, and Derek stumbled over his words, trying to twist arrogance into apology. But Maya didn't yell. She didn't need to. Her silence carried the weight of 1,000 moments like this, where dignity had been doubted and respect withheld. She simply raised her phone, the live stream still rolling. Over 10,000 viewers watching justice unfold in real time. Every smirk, every slur, every humiliating second was now evidence. The world was seeing what success too often hides. That power doesn't protect you from prejudice when your skin is the wrong color. Derek's facade cracked completely. His authority disintegrated under the gaze of the woman he'd tried to erase. "You said I didn't belong here," Maya whispered, her voice trembling, not with fear but fury contained by grace. "You were right about one thing, Derek. I don't belong in a place that treats people like this." Cameras flashed as guests began recording, the story spreading faster than anyone could stop it. Corporate phones buzzed with alerts. News outlets were tagging the hotel chain, and the internet was already calling it the night a CEO was denied her own room. Derek tried to recover, muttering excuses about procedure, but it was too late. The balance of power had shifted. Maya opened another file. Personnel records, performance reports, guest complaints, all tied to the very people standing before her. One by one, their names lit up on the screen like guilty confessions. The truth was no longer whispered. It was broadcast. And as Derek's polished confidence crumbled into panic, the same marble floors he'd once stood upon in superiority now reflected his downfall. The room had transformed from a stage of humiliation into a courtroom of accountability. Maya wasn't just reclaiming her reservation. She was reclaiming every voice silenced by discrimination in rooms just like this one. The air was electric, heavy with history, and for the first time, everyone in that lobby understood what real power looked like. Not loud, not vengeful, just undeniable. But as Maya's phone buzzed with another notification, corporate headquarters requesting an immediate report, she realized the reckoning wasn't finished yet. What she did next would decide not just their fate, but the future of every employee who thought prejudice came without consequence. Because this wasn't over. Not yet. By the time the sun rose over the Sterling Grand, the world had already chosen its side. Overnight, millions had watched the footage. Watched a black woman denied entry to her own hotel, humiliated by the very people whose paychecks she signed. Hashtags trended. News anchors debated. Corporate headquarters released statements filled with polished regret. But none of it could erase what the cameras had captured. The raw, unfiltered face of everyday racism hiding behind luxury smiles. In the morning meeting that followed, Maya stood at the same marble counter. Not as a victim they tried to make her, but as a leader she had always been. One by one, she terminated the employees responsible, swiftly, professionally, without raising her voice. There was no satisfaction in it, only the steady ache of disappointment. Because the truth was never about her alone. It was about a system built to doubt her existence, even when her name was etched on the ownership papers. When the lobby cleared, Maya walked the length of her hotel in silence. Every polished surface, every chandelier, every gold plaque bore her investment, but none reflected her fully. She had built something magnificent, yet still had to prove she belonged inside it. That irony cut deeper than any insult could. Later that day, she addressed the world through a video message, not a statement of outrage, but of purpose. She spoke about rebuilding the culture of her hotels from the ground up, about mandatory bias training, equitable hiring, and accountability. Her voice was calm, but carried the weight of history. Racism, she said, doesn't always wear hoods or carry torches. Sometimes it stands behind a counter, smiling. The video spread faster than the incident itself, igniting conversations in boardrooms and break rooms alike. Maya's quiet courage had become a mirror, forcing people to look at their own prejudices, their own silent complicity. And while Derek and his team faded into unemployment and internet infamy, Maya's story became a rallying cry for respect, representation, and change in places still built to exclude. But even as applause flooded in, Maya knew the fight wasn't over. It never really is. Every success story built by someone who looks like her carries the same unspoken question. How many times must we prove our worth before we're simply believed? The world saw her victory that night. But the truth is, victory shouldn't have been necessary, because no one should have to own the building just to be allowed inside.